Hello everyone, how you doing internet? I'm Dan Casey and welcome to today's episode of Nerdist News Talks Back. It's our weekly over-the-top talk show about all things pop culture, and thank you so much for joining us. On today's show, it's a crisis on infinite headlines, from the latest and greatest in the world of King Shark news to what to expect from the Gotham Knights game to a deep dive into Robert Pattinson as the Batman. We're going to cover everything we learned about this weekend at DC Universe's Saturday's DC Fandom event. That's right, all of this and more on today's episode of Nerdist News Talks Back, and there is just so much to get into, I can't do it alone, so please welcome our panel. Let's meet them right now. Now, you know her from the Meaning Of podcast on the First Cut YouTube channel, Geeks of Color, the Schmodown Entertainment Network, and as a competitor in the Movie Trivia Schmodown, it's Sabrina Ramirez.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to talk all the DC goodness.
Oh, we have so much to talk about. Now, next up, you've seen her all over the place, from DC Daily to Collider Heroes to right here on Nerdist and Geek and Sundry. Now you can catch her streaming on twitch.tv/enthusiamy. It's Amy Dallen.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here and to talk through all of this goodness with y'all.
Yes, especially after that King Shark panel you shared, I need to get into all of this with you and more. But last but not least, he is a senior editor and producer at IGN, a nationally ranked Pokemon trading card game player, and potentially a Green Lantern. It's Joshua Yehl.
Hello. Yes, hey Dan, hey fellow guests, hello everyone at home, and hi Mom.
Oh, hello Josh's mom as well. Also, I had to revise this to Indigo Lantern based on your lighting, which is just lovely.
Yes.
All right, so let's get this show on the road. We've got a lot to get into, but first it's time for a weekly segment that we like to call, Should You Still Be Wearing a Mask in Public This Week? And let's see, according to all science, the answer is yes. There's still a pandemic, so same as last week, put on a mask. It's not violating your freedom. It's just science. Don't be rude. Wear that mask. Anyway, moving on. So DC Fandom, I can't believe the size and scope of this event. That gigantic dome certainly came to life. I think it's located somewhere outside the source wall. We have so much to talk about today. But before we get into it, we're going to get into a lot of the specifics. I want to know from the panel, was there an announcement at DC Fandom that had you particularly excited? If so, what was it and why? So Amy, let's start with you.
Okay. There was so much that was great, and all the stuff I was prepared for, I was very excited by, but the one that really got me was the surprise panel that turned out to be Milestone is back. We have new news for Static, we have comics coming, and personally most exciting is that the classic stuff is going to start being available on digital. It has been so hard to find for years. Milestone Comics, get into it, or get back into it. It will finally be possible.
Thank goodness. Yeah, especially it's so nice that these comics can get a new lease on life, especially through putting those archives in a digital marketplace where fans can access them, because it'd be a shame if you couldn't get your hands on those sweet, sweet comics otherwise. So Joshua, let's move on to you. Was there an announcement that really just had you over the moon, or something that, like, you weren't expecting this weekend?
Not so much an announcement, but definitely something I wasn't expecting was the sudden emphasis on King Shark. Like he was like launched from obscurity onto like the AAA stage real quick. He's going to be in a game and in a movie. I know he has been in some other things. He's been on like The Flash and the Harley Quinn show. And we've seen him here and there, but they're like, DC's like going all in on King Shark, and I'm here for it. I want to take a big bite.
100%. Yeah, they ran the numbers. The audience has a sickness for thickness, and they want more King Shark wherever they can get him. I like you, I was honestly surprised, but also very pleased, because it's as close as we're ever going to come to a live-action Street Sharks, or maybe the gateway we need for a live-action Street Sharks. Now, Sabrina, what about you? Was there something that stood out to you at this weekend's DC Fandom?
Yeah, the Boss Females of Color within the DC Universe panel that was hosted by Estelle, that was something that I absolutely loved watching, hearing everybody's experiences and their how they feel about joining the DC Universe and everything, and just going forward. I just think it's a beautiful celebration of representation, and it's something that I would love to see more of going forward.
Yeah, I think that's a great point in between, like, all the kind of like glitzy trailer drops and everything else. It was nice to see those panels and hear about all these people who have these deep-seated connections to fandom, because I think that's the reason we all gravitate towards this stuff in the first place. Something about DC and their storytelling, that like elemental mythic quality they have, really resonates with people. across the globe. And that was just, yeah, like a really amazing panel to see. So let's move away from squad goals for a second and move on to Suicide Squad goals, because we learned all about Suicide Squad. James Gunn's highly anticipated The Suicide Squad got our first look at the cast, and it looks absolutely bonkers. On Saturday, James Gunn joined DC Fandom to answer fan questions, reveal a teaser trailer, and bring out the sprawling cast to play a silly trivia game, which was kind of a running theme of the weekend, it felt like. And while we knew most of the actors in question were involved in this movie, this was our first official confirmation of who's who. Now, you can see the full list on Nerdist.com with more details, but a few surprises included Idris Elba as Bloodsport, Pete Davidson as Blackguard, Nathan Fillion as TDK, Alicia Braga as Solsaria, David Dastmalchian as Polka Dot Man, John Cena as Peacemaker, and of course, Steve Agee as the on-set King Shark. So, with this gigantic cast, what was your biggest surprise? Was there a character that you were not expecting to be in here? Who do you think is gonna, like, which of these characters do you think is gonna resonate with audiences the most? Sabrina, let's start with you.
Yeah, something that really stood out was James Gunn just highly praising his experience on set, talking about how he loved working with everybody. And you could just tell with the chemistry that everyone had during this panel that it seems like a blast. So, I mean, you know, when somebody's having a blast on set, the film is just going to be a blast, and I'm really excited to experience that. Something that I loved, I really loved Pete Davidson. You know, him being Blackguard in this. I think he's an incredible actor, and I'm really excited for him to be in this action film, and I want to see what he does going forward with this one.
Yeah, this is like, Pete Davidson is like a phoenix rising, and I'm very excited to see what he can do, because I feel like James Gunn is one of those directors who people want to work with him because he can pull out the best in his cast. Like, there's a reason he keeps working with certain people over and over again. Now we have John Embry in the chat saying he's excited for more Captain Boomerang because everyone needs more Jai Courtney in their lives. That's fantastic. And Canadian Invincible Comics says, I'm absolutely certain that 90% of those characters will die, maybe even before halfway through the movie, which, yeah, I mean, look, it's right there in the name. It's not like a guaranteed survival squad. It's between the bombs in their heads and just the high mortality rate of that group, anything is possible. But Joshua, what about that cast reveal stood out to you? Were there any characters that you're particularly excited for?
Yeah, first of all, like, wow, they really went to some deep cuts, like beyond deep cuts, like characters that even I had to look up. And I, like, you know, consume comic books like all the time. Like, it's not healthy for my diet. But I will say Polka Dot Man looks really cool. And like the kind of the one shot we got of Polka Dot Man doing his thing, like throwing the polka dots, and they'll probably explode when they land on somebody, or like make them swell up, or, you know, spew acid out of their mouth or something. I don't know. It's gonna be wild. That was a really cool like realization of what is a very corny, cheesy character. But yeah, to the commenter's point that most of these people will die, yes, but knowing James Gunn, he will make us love or really despise each and every one of these characters, and then, yeah, that bomb will go off in their neck, or, you know, they'll get gunned down or exploded or something. I think it was Flula Borg who said that, you know, it's arms, legs, and genitals just exploding everywhere. So can't wait for that.
Yeah, although coming from Flula, if you've ever seen his YouTube work, that could mean literally anything happens in this movie. So who knows? Maybe they will all survive. It's the reverse Rogue One strategy. But Amy, what about you? Was there anyone in the cast that you were just like super stoked to see, or a character you could not believe was going to be in this sequel?
This was just a series of delights. I think 0 of us called Bloodsport for Idris Elba, but I will say in a day that was filled for me specifically with a lot of just Gail Simone deep cuts all over the world, I was so happy to see Savant. Savant is half of one of my favorite love stories, weirdly, in comics. I don't think we're getting that in this film. Probably he just explodes, but I'm still excited. And I definitely didn't call it. And I can't wait to see, like, has anyone ever believed anything more than you believe that James Gunn's favorite villain is Batmite?
No, I mean, absolutely. Like, that's going to be the post-credit scene, is you'll see who's really pulling the strings, just emerging from the shadows.
And he also threw love to John Ostrander, which I loved so much. Those were my favorite bits of the day, was everybody calling out comic book creators and all the inspirations.
Yeah, I really loved when James Gunn mentioned that, he brought John Ostrander to set and talked about how he wanted this to be an extension of that original run of the comics, more so than just an adaptation. And, I think it's just really refreshing because, like, there's a reason that people gravitated towards the original Suicide Squad comics in the first place. And we need a little bit more than just the Ostrander building. So with this, we have someone else in the chat who's preempting one of my next questions, which is one of the biggest names in this cast was not on the panel. Now, everyone has been feverishly speculating as to who Taika Waititi is going to be playing in this movie. Now, popular theories are that he's voicing King Shark or Weasel, but I'm curious, who do you think that Taika Waititi is playing? Is it Batmite?
I think,
love that.
Taika as King Shark would be cool. Batmite as, secret villain or something, surprise appearance would be great. Weasel, as you said. But if it's not one of those, it's not one of the ones that everyone is predicting, I would actually go with Rustam, who is a villain for the Suicide Squad. There's kind of like this international group of terrorists that's kind of like the counter Suicide Squad from the John Ostrander run. And so Taika Waititi, I guess, kind of looks like him. He was like rocking a mustache for a while. Then Rustam has this like really cool mustache. He like has like this fiery sword, like that's his weapon and stuff. So I think we haven't really heard who the Suicide Squad are going up against. So if I were to pick somebody, I would say it'd be Rustam and his group of even worse bad guys than the Suicide Squad.
Look, the prospect of mustachioed Taika Waititi wielding a flaming sword is everything I didn't know I needed in my life, but I would love to see that happen on the big screen. Amy, what about you?
I'll say I like Joshua's idea best, but if we can't have Ron Funches as King Shark in the movie, I would happily take Taika Waititi.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Ron Funches put such a wonderful spin on that character on Harley Quinn, but I think that if you can't get Ron, Taika is a pretty solid backup. But Sabrina, what do you think?
I would say Weasel, just as like a different answer, just because I think it's so interesting, his look, this whole taxidermy gone wrong type of thing. Taika's voice, I feel like he can find it in him to just lend his voice to that beautifully. I'm looking forward to this character so much. I never knew this was the character that I needed in my life, but hey, I'm here for it.
Yeah, and I think it would let him do something different than like what we saw with Korg in Thor Ragnarok, where he's this like big beefy character who plays kind of like an understated, goofy guy. Seeing Taika get his monster on a little bit and just be this like kind of like a literal weasel man, that'd be a nice change of pace.
I'm not ready to cry over him dying again.
Well, it's probably gonna happen. I'll get some bad news. So in the teaser, the kind of behind the scenes footage we saw, they described this movie as a gritty 1970s war movie combined with the brilliance of James Gunn's characters and comedy. So what were your reactions to the footage, and what do you hope to see from this movie that we didn't necessarily get from the first Suicide Squad? Sabrina, let's start with you.
Yeah, what I'm really looking forward to seeing is just a deep dive into these characters, even if they're only on screen for a little bit. That's why I gave a shout out to Pete Davidson, because I don't know how far he's going to make it in a cast like this. So I think even falling in love with every single one or hating them or just still rooting for them, rooting against them, I think James Gunn just has a knack for characters in a story and really having us like fall in love with them 100%. And yeah, so that's really the biggest thing. Also the set pieces looked incredible. It really gives off that war vibe that they were talking about within the panel.
Yeah, it's so many, like, it was just, even though you saw brief snippets, just so many like action-packed moments, like Harley Quinn in that badass red dress, like flipping off the walls and just laying the smackdown on people. Just very exciting stuff. Amy, what were your reactions?
I think it looks gloriously fun. I think it's going to just be pure James Gunn. We're all going to go nuts researching all of these characters, and then he's going to change them up and do whatever he wants. But I believe him when he says that they had an incredible time making this movie. And it looks like, while the result is probably going to be, I'm not always first in line for and then the body explodes into 10,000 pieces. But there's a place for that in the world, and I think that place is this movie.
Yes, and in Nathan Fillion's case, that's one of his powers. Joshua, what was your reaction to this behind-the-scenes glimpse?
I thought it looked so like wild and crazy, and it had this like real like chaotic energy to it, and I was like really there for it. I will say we kind of touched on this a little bit before, but I am looking forward to seeing the characters being expendable, like we've like touched on. In the first movie, most of the characters made it out alive. That's not what is supposed to happen in a Suicide Squad comic. So I think it'll be more loyal to the comic books that way. And another thing that's really loyal to the comic books, I noticed there was like a quick like frame of John Cena sitting in the briefing room, and that's like a signature thing from the Ostrander comics, where all the villains would sort of loiter in. Boomerang was like always late because he's always off doing like a crime or something. And then Amanda Waller would be like, well, listen up, all you guys. And she would like give them the mission. And they'd be like, what are you talking about? We're going to die. She's like, yeah. And you're going to go and you're going to die for me. Otherwise, I'm going to kill you with this. You know, she's like always like, you know, giving them the mission, threatening their lives, sending them on a really dangerous mission. And that's sort of like just kind of like a fun thing. I'm glad that they're including in the movie. And I just think it's like those little touches that show that James Gunn really is a fan of the comic book and is including that. And it looks like he's having a really good time with that.
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm excited to see his take, especially after he expressed such a deep passion for those original Ostrander comics. But that's not the only Suicide Squad we're going to be getting in the future. There's also a gigantic video game coming from Rocksteady called Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League. And during the Will Arnett hosted panel for that game, Rocksteady showed off a nearly 4-minute teaser trailer showing Deadshot, Harley Quinn, Captain Boomerang, and you guessed it, King Shark beating the ever-loving hell out of some bad guys before realizing they've been sent to assassinate a very murdery, very evil Superman. So what was your reaction to this teaser trailer? And are we ever going to get a game where Superman isn't the villain? Amy, let's start with you.
Well, it definitely helped that we got a different game reveal first. So my sort of, I want to be good guys, itch could be like quieted down by the time I saw this, and I could just enjoy this for what it was, which honestly looked pretty delightful. I think we probably all saw what looks an awful lot like Brainiac's ship coming down. So we either have some good guesses or some very good fake outs as to what's going on here. It looks like I liked the writing in the scene a lot. It looks like it's going to be super fun and super detailed. So while I personally would love like a big Birds of Prey beat 'em up or a Wonder Woman God of War style game, of course I'm going to play this. It looks fabulous.
Yeah, I gotta say, like that banter that they had back and forth, and they're just like complete reluctance to actually do the job they were sent there for, because like they're not getting paid for this. Their payment is not having their heads exploded, or maybe getting some of their many lifetime sentences reduced by at least one lifetime. But Joshua, what did you think of this trailer? What do you hope to see from the game?
Oh, I thought the trailer was so good, and it's so great that like we've gotten different versions of the Suicide Squad, including the movie, but it's also the other movie. They've had like an animated movie and stuff, but this seems like a very unique version with 4 really cool characters at the forefront. Again, King Shark being a playable character is awesome. I also love the bits of personality we got out of Captain Boomerang. Anyone who has read the Suicide Squad comic books, the Ostrander run especially, knows that Captain Boomerang is like the secret sauce that makes it all work. Like he is like the character. Like you love to hate him, and he's always got these like other schemes. He's like up to no good all the time, and you kind of want to see him get away with it just to see what's going to happen. So it looks like the game really is playing that up. I also like that the boomerang they gave him seems to be some sort of teleporting technology, and it's got sort of that lightning trail effect, like kind of when the Flash moves, and then he can like throw it, and then he'll like follow that stream and like teleport to where the boomerang is. I think it's a really cool mechanic to make him not just a guy who throws trick boomerangs.
Yeah, he needs something a little bit more than just being the long-range trickster. And that, I mean, hey, that's pretty tricksy in and of itself, like being able to teleport around. And also just that moment at the end of the trailer when his boomerang just dinks Superman on the back of the head was just perfect. Just exactly what they needed. But Sabrina, what was your reaction to that trailer? What do you hope to see from this?
Yeah, so my reaction was just that it looks so fun. This looks like something that I completely can immerse myself into because I'm not the biggest gamer, but this looks like something that I can just sit down, have a really good time with these characters. Even the writing in the beginning of it, like you guys all said, I'm echoing all of your sentiments with this one. Harley Quinn, King Shark. I am loving all the King Shark. I know we keep talking about this, but gosh, this is something that I didn't know. I didn't really expect from something like this. But yeah, we didn't get a lot of the gameplay, but it really did set the tone. It really set the vibrancy of what we're about to see in this game. So it was really exciting.
Yeah, I gotta say, I think for a lot of Suicide Squad fans, this is like a wish come true for them because they get to finally just play these characters in a gigantic game all their own, because usually that treatment is reserved for more higher profile characters. Like there's been how many Batman games compared to this is like their first solo starring game. So it's pretty exciting. But speaking of wishes coming true, let's move on to the world of Wonder Woman 1984. Let's fire up that invisible jet and our visible excitement because DC Fandom gave us a brand new Wonder Woman 1984 trailer, including our best look yet at Cheetah in the furry flesh, and some major clues about how Steve Trevor is back after being well and truly exploded back during World War I. So let me ask you, what were your biggest takeaways from this trailer? And I know, Amy, you also have some thoughts about Werewolf 1984 as well. So let's start with you. What were your biggest takeaways from this trailer?
I mean, my takeaways from this trailer, I am not the target audience for this trailer in that I could not already be any more on board with this movie. So there's no selling they can do to me. On the other hand, it looks fabulous. I don't know when and how we're going to get to see this thing because I'm not dying to go to a theater, but I am like, the movie looks great. The performances look really fun. The angle they're taking on the Cheetah story is one of my favorites. That Diana is disappointed in her, that she mourns her. Their distorted friendship is one of my favorite recurring elements in the many different versions of Cheetah that have been in the Wonder Woman comics. So I'm primarily excited because we're getting a version of that story. I will plug, I really loved the way they reframed that one when Greg Rucka did his return to Wonder Woman in the beginning of the Rebirth run. If you want to fall in love with and have your heart broken by that friendship, that's where I would recommend jumping in. Not necessarily what they're using as material for this. But anyway, yeah, fully on board, and also couldn't guess the bad guys in their werewolf game to save my life. I really thought Connie was one of the villains. She was not.
No, Connie Britt, she would never be a villain.
But
Connie,
she was the first one to accuse.
Yeah, see, I mean, classic. Look, don't judge a book by its cover. Sometimes they're definitely not a werewolf. So Sabrina, what were your biggest takeaways from this trailer? What spoke to you about it? What did you pick up on?
Yeah, the biggest standout was Kristen Wiig. When she was announced as Cheetah, I didn't really know what to expect because she's been incredible in roles that aren't comedic, as well as obviously being a brilliant comedian. But she completely immersed herself into this role, and this was something that I love to see from her. I think the choreography that we saw between Cheetah and in that fight scene looked absolutely incredible. The vibrancy, it just looks like a spectacle. Is the thing that is making me miss theaters the most. Stuff like this, seeing this type of trailer, I would love to be sitting down in a packed theater, not currently, in down the line or pre-pandemic, and then be able to witness this with an audience and hear their reactions. This is one of those that I would have loved to have that experience.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that this will play at a drive-in theater near me because like a movie like this is something I absolutely want to see on the big screen with a bunch of people who are equally excited to be there, because that has been one of the great joys of the kind of like uptick in superhero films, is feeling that palpable energy and passion from the audience, especially when you go see a movie like this. Like seeing Wonder Woman like launch just like 100 feet into the air out of nowhere because she never skips leg day is so much better when you get to see it with a bunch of other people. But Joshua, what did you think about this trailer? Was there anything that stood out to you? Do you think we're going to see the invisible jet?
First of all, I want to say I actually just got a little emotional hearing you guys talk about, you know, the joy of going to the theater. And yeah, there is nothing like that experience. And we'll get back to it one day if we're all patient, you know, and wear the masks. But yeah, to what Sabrina says of the Wonder Woman is a character who brings spectacles, like swinging on lightning bolts. That's such like an awesome, godly, like mythic thing to do, and it's just like so cool. And I do want to see that on a big screen. But also, yeah, we did get the first look of live action Cheetah for the first time. I thought the design looked really cool because I know that design of like an anthropomorphic cheetah could go really, really wrong, but the quality of it wasn't quite there. And that was actually one of my critiques of the first Wonder Woman movie, where Ares in the end just looks sort of like a video game boss fight from like early 2000s. And now Cheetah looks like a video game boss fight from like the early, whatever we call the 2000 teens. So I wasn't too sold on that in action. You know, obviously there's more time before the movie comes out. It could be like, you know, polished. And it might just look better, you know, in the movie setting, you know, in a theater or at home, wherever we end up watching it. So you know, I'll wait and see. But as far as like the arc of Cheetah. It looks very similar to Michelle Pfeiffer's Catwoman in Batman Returns, where it's like this like bookish woman with frizzy hair who then like turns like real sexy. But I guess she's like one-upping Catwoman by turning into an actual Catwoman by the end.
See, it's just a natural evolution of that archetypal storytelling right there. But no, I agree with you about Cheetah. I think that she will probably look better contextually in the film, because that like the VFX people are busy rendering 700,000 effect shots and scrambling to get this trailer done on time. So I'm hopeful that it will alleviate any concerns that we have at the end. But I have to say about the first Wonder Woman, one of the funniest shots I've ever seen is when they show kind of young Ares, and it just looks like they like put David Thewlis's head on a much more jacked body, and it just looks like ripped Nigel Thornberry. And I can't get that image out of my head. But with this one, I feel like it's great as well, because we got our kind of best sense yet about some of these lingering questions, like I mentioned before, like how Steve Trevor is back. And it's not just because Chris Pine looks great in 80s fashions. It's because like we got to get a little bit of that, like more of that through line with Maxwell Lord. And I've seen a theory floating around online. I want to pick your brains about it, about something called the Chaos Shards, these items in DC lore that lets the user grant wishes. Now we see Maxwell Lord in the White House. We hear Barbara Minerva wanting to become like this apex predator. Wonder Woman's clearly missing something in her life. What would she bring back if she could have a wish? Perhaps Steve Trevor. So I'm curious, what do you think that this is a potential angle they're going to pursue? How is Maxwell Lord pulling these strings? Is Diana got to sacrifice Steve all over again to save the day, and it's going to break our hearts twice? Sabrina, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, oh my gosh, if I have to see that again, if I have to see Steve Trevor die on screen, bring him back, please. But yeah, I'm really interested to see what they're doing with this in particular. I love that they brought Chris Pine back, because their chemistry is so good. Their comedic chemistry, their romantic chemistry. I just feel like he adds so much to Diana Prince's story. Really happy that he's back for this one. I have no idea how. I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm excited to see what they're going to go for.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be, I think, unexpected, to say the least. Joshua or Amy, any thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, I think Amy actually brought up a good point that, this movie seems really influenced by that Rucka Wonder Woman comic. But in that one, Minerva gets her powers and becomes Cheetah from a plant god. I don't think they're going that route. I think, yeah, all these crazy things are happening because of this, Chaos Shard, wishing stone, whatever you want to call it. And I do think that is going to be a really interesting challenge for Wonder Woman, because she is a hero who is completely selfless and just gives everything she has to make sure others get what they want and that they're safe. And she is a very like loving, nurturing hero in that way. So for her to finally get something that she wants in return, but have it be part of some villainous scheme, and knowing that she'll have to give it up in order to stop him, I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. So I think that's going to be a great emotional core for the movie, and I am interested to see how it pans out.
Yeah, I hope.
I will say, if it could end with, if we do have to give him up again, he could always just get him to fall into the Speed Force somehow, and he'll pop back out for the third movie, and then we'll get 25 more in the modern day, and it'll all solve all the timeline problems.
I think you just cracked the code, because as we'll get to in a little bit, the Flash may solve any issues that we have with any sort of cohesive timeline. But first, let's stay on the topic of lightning in the DC universe, moving on to things like Black Adam and Shazam 2. Queen tried to warn us in Bohemian Rhapsody that thunderbolts and lightning, very, very frightening, and that is nowhere more apparent than in Black Adam, because The Rock looks pretty intimidating. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is going to be playing the eponymous Black Adam in that movie. In the teaser trailer full of concept art from Jim Lee and Boss Logic, we got our first glimpse of what this movie could be. We learn it takes place 5,000 years after Black Adam liberated the people of Kahndaq from the yoke of oppression through probably murdering literally everyone who was in his way. He's a bit of an anti-hero. He's judge, jury, and executioner out to protect his people and his family. So I'm curious. We also learned that he's going to be squaring off against the Justice Society of America, one of my all-time favorite groups, starring Noah Centineo as Atom Smasher, along with Hawkman, Dr. Fate, and Cyclone. So my question to you is, what kind of characterization do you expect we're going to see from Black Adam in this film? Joshua, let's start with you.
Oh man, Black Adam is such a cool character, and the fact that The Rock is going to play him is just like so awesome. Black Adam, I feel like, is like, if you read comic books, you know he's a great character, and he was a huge part of the pre-New 52 DC comic universe and was a big figure on the JSA. He was actually a member of the team. They didn't get along so well all the time, but he did find characters that he did respect, and then others he really hated. So I am interested to see like how that all plays out on the big screen. I did think that it was great how a big chunk, especially the end of The Rock's presentation for Black Adam, was him calling out the Justice League and Superman specifically. And it really just felt like The Rock doing one of his old promos on like SmackDown or Raw, where he's just calling out whichever, wrestler, he wanted to fight that week. And I thought that was really fun and really cool. And it just shows you just how much he, channels the energy of that character. I believe he was cast as Black Adam, and this has been in the works since like 2007. So this has been a long time coming, and it looks like he's really antsy and ready to bring that character to the big screen in a big way. And I love that he, in his mind, the way he believes in the character, it already feels like a AAA, like top tier superhero property, even though it's essentially like a spin-off of Shazam, who was already a B level character. So it's like the villain spin-off of a character, but The Rock is like bringing it all the way to the top level. And the fact that he did like call out all these A-list heroes, the Justice League, really in a way puts Black Adam at the center of the DC universe going forward, which is very exciting.
Yeah, it's crazy that he just willed this character onto the big screen through like the sheer force of charisma alone. So Sabrina, what do you think that an actor like The Rock can add to the DC universe, especially in this more like anti-heroic role?
It's actually interesting that I didn't know he was casted in this, and it was in development since like 2007. So throughout, from then till now, we've really seen the evolution of him as an actor. We've seen him in all different aspects, be comedic, be heartfelt. Like there's just so much to bring out from Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in every single character. So I think he's going to bring all those facets into this one. And so I'm excited. I feel like he's a beautiful addition to any kind of ensemble. So the DCEU needs to kind of get this forward, because that concept art looked incredible. So I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, I truly can't wait to see more, especially of the Justice Society of America. Amy, can you tell us a little bit about why this might be exciting and your reaction to seeing that they were going to be in this movie going toe-to-toe with Black Adam?
Dan, first of all, I didn't know that you are a JSA stan, and that is so exciting. Because that was a wonderful head exploding moment on the panel for me, because we knew about Atom Smasher, but I had no idea we were going there with Hawkman and Dr. Fate and Cyclone in a movie. I'm over the moon about it. It's been such a long road, as Joshua, I had no idea it'd been that long, but like I vaguely remember there being a time where we weren't sure whether The Rock was leaning towards playing Captain Marvel, aka Shazam, or Black Adam, and I was salty about it for a while because I have that chip on my shoulder about everyone thinking bad guys are cooler. But the truth is, he's gonna be great, and it looks like it's gonna be really fun. And I think, Joshua, I think you're right that they're gonna tread this maybe team up, maybe fight JSA line, hopefully really nicely in this movie, depending on whether they're setting up a villain confrontation or just like a Black Adam is the hero of the JSA franchise. And I'm not sure where to put my money on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can really go either way. I feel like ultimately they're going to like start off butting heads and then realize that they have to team up to take down something larger, because that is kind of like, I feel like that's usually how this anti-hero storyline goes, because you still want audiences to root for him. But like Joshua mentioned with his WWE days, The Rock has played a heel, he's played a babyface, he can do it all, and it's going to be nice to see him playing a role that is not necessarily like sort of cut and dry like the hero. Just like I like it when he can show a different shade as well. But speaking of Shazam, as you brought up, Amy, we got a little tidbit about the Shazam sequel in the form of a poster for the new title, Shazam: Fury of the Gods, which also included Sinbad, who according to the Mandela Effect, was in a movie called Shazam, in which he played a genie, which was definitely a real movie and not at all an elaborate prank. So my question for you is, what do you make of the sequel? What do you make of the subtitle? And is Sinbad going to be in this movie? Sabrina, let's start with you.
Yeah, I actually thought it was a bit with the whole Sinbad thing. I had no idea. I would love to see Sinbad in this film. And this was the only panel that I wasn't really over the moon about, which, of course, with all the huge news that we're having throughout the entire day, there's going to be a few. I really love the title Fury of the Gods. I feel like the way they announced it, by having her draw the poster, I thought that was really, really cute. And I loved having Megan Good on the panel as well, because she was also on that panel that I talked about earlier. And yeah, I'm excited to explore more with these characters because the first Shazam was just a lot of fun. It was really feel good. It was a nice, refreshing change of pace from what we've seen from the DCEU over the past few years. So yeah, it was really exciting.
Yeah, it was such an unexpected breath of fresh air, as you mentioned. So I'm hoping they can maintain that moving forward. I would love to see Sinbad actually be in this movie because when they brought him out on the panel, I lost my mind. I couldn't believe it. We have Sheridan Easterling in the chat saying Sinbad as the main villain. I would love if Sinbad is another rival sorcerer, also named Shazam, but from a different dimension where he summons a genie or something like that. But Joshua, Amy, what did you think of this brief little tease? What are you hoping to see from the sequel?
Well, I like that. To me, the promo tells you that they already know what they have going, which is that it's fun and it's charming, and the more you can show me of little Darla, the better. I feel like they were like, this is what, and truthfully, I have no idea whether Sinbad is a bit or not, because it's going so far to actually get him on the panel. If this is just just a joke, I'm very on board for what we get. The ending of the first movie I thought was really delightful, the empowering of the family. I didn't think they were going to go there based on the sort of the reworking of the Shazam family, but the element of family with the Shazam powers has always been part of the legacy. So yeah, I'm on board, but you know, they have my money for all of these things. So
Yeah, I especially more of the Shazam family because they were such a delightful part of that first movie. So much chemistry, such great performances from that young group of actors. I'd love to see more of them in particular. Joshua, what are your thoughts? What do you want to see from a Shazam sequel?
Well, I just want to make sure they follow up on the Mr. Mind tease at the end of Shazam, who's like that tiny, evil, talking caterpillar. Obviously, the sequel is called Fury of the Gods. I don't know how the caterpillar ties into that, but he better.
At the end of the movie, there's going to be another post-credit scene where he crawls into a cocoon, and then he appears in the third movie.
Yeah, there you go. They're doing the long game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like he's the Thanos of that world. Well, let's move away from the elements like thunder and lightning onto something wetter and wilder with Aquaman 2, which was fairly light on updates compared to the rest of these films. But director James Wan did tease a more serious tone for this seafaring sequel, and actor Patrick Wilson was also on hand to reveal that Orm, aka Ocean Master, will be back in the sequel as well. So my question for the panel is, what do you hope to see from Aquaman 2, and what do you think they mean by a more serious tone? Does that mean no more Topo the musical octopus, who we saw like grooving out to some sweet bongos in the first movie? Amy, let's start with you.
there had better be more Topo the musical octopus. I loved that the first movie had fun with its concepts, but also really was trying to tell like a serious love story with Aquaman's parents, attempting to tell a dynastic story with the Undersea Kingdom. I hope that with a chance to sort of have less, they needed to get a lot done in that first movie, and they have a more open field to sort of like pick a story and just kind of focus in on what they want to do with the second one. But the way in which it's serious, I don't expect it'll be like grimdark serious. I expect it'll be, we take our world seriously. We take these characters seriously. We really love the undersea kingdoms and the mythology that we've got going here. And you see that in some of the best moments of the first film, like the trench, which is legitimately terrifying. So that element, that's what I hope they mean by more serious for the second film. And I'm excited.
Yeah, I gotta say, especially now that they've like really done a great job at establishing that world, I was kind of shocked at how many different tones the original movie included because, you know, you go from this like kind of high-flying action adventure movie to something that is like James Wan showing off his horror roots with The Trench and like these like Lovecraftian sea monsters who are just like genuinely upsetting. So I'm excited to see more of that. But Sabrina, tell me, what do you hope to see from an Aquaman sequel?
Yeah, I really hope when they talk about this like darker tone, that it's just more timely and more relevant. I feel like telling these kind of stories, because this is an outlandish premise. Obviously, it's Aquaman, but making it a little bit more grounded by making the story complex, kind of bringing in some like real world themes and elements to the story. That's kind of what I want to see going forward with this one.
Fantastic, fantastic. And Joshua, what about you?
I think in the sequel, we got to chop the hand off. That thing's got to go. We're going to replace it with a sick hook. And it's funny because normally in the comics, they did that to kind of make Aquaman a little more like tough and like badass. But like Jason Momoa has already made him as badass as he could possibly be. Like you're not going to make fish jokes at that guy. But no, I want to see the hand get Jamie Lannister. Kasha!
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, look, Orm's going to do it. He's going to take his revenge. Look, as an only child, I can't relate, but I have to imagine there's a lot of tension between those two. But yeah, I'm very excited to see what, I can't wait to see a hook-handed Jason Momoa because, I don't know, I think that would be a way to make him even more badass somehow because, look, he's already proven he can wield a trident, but give him a hook on top of that, everyone is going to run home crying. And speaking of running, in the interest of keeping things moving along, let's access the Speed Force to the Flash news. That's right, folks, this is not an elaborate prank. The Flash movie is allegedly actually happening. It's a real thing, at least according to DC Fandom. So during a fast-paced panel, star Ezra Miller was joined by director Andy Muschietti and writer Christina Hodson and producer Barbara Muschietti to run through a bit of Flash history. They teased the upcoming film and showed some concept art that showcases the Flash's new suit as designed by Bruce Wayne, as well as a shot of the Flash and what is clearly Michael Keaton's Batman standing together. So this has the internet, Twitter, ablaze with speculation. What do you hope to see from this movie, and what are your thoughts on them adapting Flashpoint and leaning into this idea of a DC multiverse? Joshua, let's start with you.
Oh my God, I could do a whole just hour on just this, but I'll try to keep it to just the highlights. It is like crazy and wild that they're doing two Batmans that we know of so far are going to be in this movie. But I think it's crazy how like we're getting our first ever Flash movie, but the whole conversation has been dominated by Batmans. So I feel like almost it's almost like I feel that feels weird, right? I feel like I want to know a little bit more about what's Barry Allen going to be up to in this movie about Barry Allen, and people aren't caring that much about the Flash of it all. But it's also weird to do Flashpoint because what makes Flashpoint a great story is that you already have the baseline and you understand Flash's world. And then you turn everything upside down and you have characters who are different than they are in Barry's original world. But we don't really get that because we haven't really had a Barry Allen movie. I always thought Flashpoint would make a great sequel. The most we've had of Barry Allen is just the little snippets we've gotten in the Justice League, which don't feel like a full meal, like to actually get to know the character. So that's something that is a big question mark for me. I don't know how they're going to handle. But the fact that we are getting this movie like in the first place, I do think is awesome. But in fact, like what is it going to do? And like what is it going to leave us with? At the end of the day, if Ben Affleck he is in this movie. If he comes to this movie, he let's say he gives a great performance as Batman. Are we going to want more? Is he going to return to the role? We already have Robert Pattinson as a Batman, but that's in another universe. So then is it okay for Ben Affleck to come back? I don't know. But also I could see Ben Affleck signing up for this, kind of like Han Solo signing up for Harrison Ford, Harrison Ford coming back for The Force Awakens to kill off Han Solo. I think Ben Affleck might be coming back just to say goodbye to the character, and he's not going to make it out of it alive.
See, you just accessed the Speed Force for that answer, and I think you hit the nail on the head there because, like, the Flash is a character that, by his nature, moves very quickly, but you also don't want to rush his narrative because we haven't really had that movie, as you mentioned, establishing Barry Allen. We've only had these like little glimpses of him as this kind of like dose of humor in that world, and one that is like sorely needed. So I'm curious as well because a lot of people are drawing the comparison of Flash and Batman, with Batman making this suit for Flash in the same sort of mentor-mentee relationship between Spider-Man and Iron Man and the MCU. So Sabrina, how do you think this is going to differ from what we've already seen in those movies?
I just think we have two completely different characters. I think our Batman that we have with Ben Affleck is very grizzled and he's very kind of over all of this that he has to deal with. And I just don't think we're going to have that type of dynamic that we have with Tony, the kind of father-son relationship with Tony and Tom Holland Spider-Man. I think it's going to be more of like a actual team up rather than like we're partners, rather than I'm more of a mentor and you're a mentee. And like in Giatti, I trust. I loved what he did with It Chapter 1 and It Chapter 2, and he's able to take this huge, dense novel and turn it into something spectacular. And I just think with a story like this, with all the characters that we have already, I think he's really going to find a way to flesh it out and make it a nice, cohesive narrative that we're all going to enjoy. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I will say the way he was able to handle the cast of It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 really gives me faith that he's able to inject a lot of heart and an emotional core to this story. But I'm also excited because, we have these characters and these actors who are so good at what they do, obviously, with the news that Michael Keaton's going to be returning, and that piece of concept art that showcases Barry Allen and Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne together. So, Amy, my question for you is, do you think that this is going to take place in the 1989 Burtonverse or present-day Burtonverse? Also, is there other parts of the DC multiverse you'd like to see cross over into this movie?
Oh, yes. I would not mind at all if we get little glimpses of a million corners of the DC universe. I know we just did it with Crisis, but it was delightful. So I am very interested. I mean, I guess depending on how long the glimpse is, you're probably much better off doing a Batman 89 pulled up to the present, because I would like to see Michael Keaton looking like Michael Keaton and not, hiding behind something, pretending to be 20, whatever. I hope that that's carried forward. If they want to do a whole Batman Beyond thing there, I'm not going to stop them. I share the surprise that we're doing Flashpoint for the first Flash movie. It's a strange decision. So for the first time in my nerd life, I think I'm ready to say it's cool with me if you're just using that title and kind of improvising everything else around it. It doesn't need to look much like the comics, because we don't really have the same grounding for the versions of the things they did in the comics. And I don't want to spoil the comics, but 2 Bruce Waynes is 2 more Bruce Waynes than I would expect to find in a Flashpoint movie. So there's a lot of questions. I like Christina Hodson. I loved the Birds of Prey movie. So I was interested to hear what they're doing. It surprises me we're starting there. But as everyone will remind us, we still have a Grant Gustin Flash out there. We have lots of options for these storytelling, which for me takes the pressure off this needing to be the one and only Barry Allen story.
Exactly.
That was too much answer, sorry.
No, that's perfect. I mean, that many Bruce Waynes, it's Crisis on Chinfinite Earths. Like, it's just going to be like strong jawline after strong jawline. And I'm okay with them kind of using Flashpoint as a jumping off point, because that is a storyline that is so beloved and adapted so many times. And you want to see them do it justice, but not just do the same thing that we've already seen. I think they can use the general conceit of it to do something really fun. Because since we haven't had this kind of establishing point, we're like, wait, your mother was murdered? I thought Batman had the murdered mother. Were you trying to save his mom, maybe? Like, I don't know what's going to happen here. Maybe he'll try to save Martha, and that's going to set off this chain of events instead. And that's why there's so many different Bruces this time around. But speaking of Martha, speaking of Bruce Wayne's, let's move on, because last but certainly not least, he's vengeance. He's the Knight. He is the Batman, and he may have made the biggest splash at all of DC Fandom. Bruce Wayne and company came correct with not only a massive reveal for WB Games' co-op action game Gotham Knights, but a first teaser trailer for Matt Reeves' The Batman, and details on that HBO Max companion series as well. So let's start things off in the world of games with Gotham Knights. It's from WB Games. It's a Batman game that shockingly doesn't seem to star Batman. And this is that rumored Court of Owls project that was teased all last week in the days and weeks leading up to this. It was confirmed in the trailer as well. It's going to let you play as Robin, Nightwing, Batgirl, and Red Hood. So what are your thoughts on this trailer? What do you hope to see from this game? Justice for Damian Wayne? Joshua, let's start with you.
We said justice for Damian Wayne because that's Tim Drake, right?
Yeah.
The Robin in there, but he has design elements from Damian. His hair is a little spikier, and he's got that sort of tunic look to his costume. But yeah, that is definitely Tim Drake. I thought this was really cool. It does feel weird having a Batman game where you don't get to play Batman. Batman is supposedly dead. But I'd bet you the whole Wayne family fortune that he'll come back in the third act. The Court of Owls is a villainous society that I've wanted to see in a game for a long time. The fact that they're doing that without Batman feels weird, because if you've read the comics, by Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo, that is one of Batman's most personal stories, right? But they're taking him out of it and putting it on his proteges to like crack the mystery. I don't know if the story is going to mean as much to them. Of course, they can adapt it and change it and mold it so that it does. But I'm just curious to see how they're going to do that.
Yeah, I definitely think it's all another instance where it's kind of nice to see them kind of uncoupling canon from what we already know and expect. Because I mean, it's great that they're shining the light on the rest of the Bat family. Like that never happens, especially in these games. Like you're playing as Bruce all the time, always. And if you play as another character, it's like, yeah, here's some missions we tacked on and didn't necessarily think all the way through just to satisfy you. But this is like you're going to play these characters and you get to play them co-op, which just is exactly what I've wanted from a game like this. So with the Court of Owls, I'm definitely intrigued as to how they're going to adapt that. And I think that you're hit the nail on the head. I feel like Batman is going to be playable for like the final third of the game when you're like, oh, he was sleeping in one of these coffins that they conveniently have hanging from the ceiling in this giant chamber. But Amy, what was your reaction to this trailer? What do you hope to see from this game?
All right, I alluded to it earlier, but this was such a delightful surprise for me because I have pitched non-existent DC video games I want for years, and getting a Bat family game is my single favorite thing about this. That we get to these other iconic in their own right characters get to take the spotlight a little bit, and Tim Drake deserves some spotlight. Damian's the new kid. We'll get there. I obviously I'm greedy. I want everything. I want Cassandra Cain. I'm always like Barbara Gordon's one of my favorite characters of all time. I'm always gonna have mixed feelings because I love Oracle so much. I own an action figure from Oracle from the Arkham games. But of course I'm gonna play Babs Batgirl. I'm so excited that she's starring in a game. And so just Bat family goodness all the way down. I love co-op games. I hope that, there's lots of ongoing gaming arguments about the best forms for storytelling things, but co-op is such a perfect fit for superhero storytelling. It's a peanut butter and jelly situation. I will take an infinite number of games of this style, and I'm excited.
Yeah, especially a game of this size and scope. It's just, it looks super exciting. But also exciting was that Batman teaser trailer from director Matt Reeves. It's been running on a loop on both my computer and in my brain for like 48 hours straight now. It was creepy. It was cool. A decidedly serial killery Riddler as played by Paul Dano. You have Robert Pattinson as this very emo Bruce Wayne and a very brutal Batman, and an unexpected dose of Nirvana, Something in the Way. So everybody gets something that they want. So my question is, what were your thoughts on the trailer and the tone of this film? And also, what do you think about Robert Pattinson's portrayal of Batman? Sabrina, let's start with you.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what Robert Pattinson does with his character. I mean, they only shot 25 to 30% of the film, and we got that beautiful, beautiful teaser out of it. So I'm just looking forward to everything else. Even Gotham, the portrayal of Gotham is something that stood out to me because Gotham itself is like a character, and it felt lively. It felt lively in a different way than we've ever seen it before. Them shooting in Liverpool and CGIing like more modern architecture in it. I love that approach because it's something that in Tim Burton's, we saw Gothic architecture, and then in Nolan's, we saw the more clean-cut Chicago type of architecture. And in this one, having that look is something that I've always wanted to see, and this feels right for the film. And Something in the Way by Nirvana, once that started, my mind was blown. I was like, this is it. Seeing this Bruce Wayne with the guy liner and the makeup and everything, this is what I want to see. We'd never get to see anything like that. So this is really exciting. And Matt Reeves, even just hearing him talk about it on the panel, it was something, you could tell how passionate he was. So I'm blown away by this. It was ending on the highest note possible.
Yeah, just speaking to that, the quality of that trailer based on the limited amount of footage they're working with, I rewound it like maybe 10 times just to listen to that like tape at the beginning, the way the logo pulses as well. Because just that first look at this like very Zodiac Killer-esque version of the Riddler was just like pretty chilling. I love to see it. So I'm curious, Amy, what are your thoughts on Paul Dano as the Riddler from what we've seen so far?
I'm excited. I love the Riddler. I love. It's funny because I coming into this, I had some sort of, I think I'm gonna enjoy it, but I don't need someone to tell me this time Batman's realistic. I was sort of not jaded. I can never truly be jaded about a Batman movie, but I was honestly surprised how much I emerged from this being like, I'm there, bring it on. I want to see this movie, because it reminded me that just a Batman solving crimes movie is a good time. I like that they're going sort of basics with it. There's going to be room for wilder supernatural takes, other stuff. The version of what they're aiming for, it looks like they're going to execute on really, really well. And listening to Matt Reeves talk about it, Call Out Batman Ego by Darwin Cook was amazing. And what you actually asked was what I think of Paul Dano as Riddler, and I'm on board.
Yeah, I mean, like, I think that you also kind of spoke to what I've been feeling about this, and it's nice to see Batman actually being the world's greatest detective, like living up to that appellation, because this is clearly a case that is the police stumped, and there's so much to dig into here. Joshua, I saw you on Twitter working out that cipher in the Riddler's greeting card about he lies still. So I'm curious, there's also been a lot of focus on that greeting card in particular. It's got a little owl on the front, a skeleton. We see a group of people with kind of corpse-like face paint later in the trailer. Are they perhaps Riddler's gang? Is that owl teasing the court of owls? What do you think might be hiding within this trailer?
Oh my gosh, yeah. I actually did a full breakdown of everything. I think I found on IGN.com if you want to check that out. But yeah, there is so much, and yeah, you're right. This trailer looks so good, and really, Matt Reeves just nerding out. He's such a freaking nerd. I want to get a beer with him. Hey Matt, when things go back to normal, let's do that. But it was just so cool to see that he is just such a longtime Batman fan, getting to make the Batman movie of his dreams, and he packed this trailer with so much to pick through and explore. I was really surprised that this seems to be like a Batman movie with Riddler as the main villain. Like even like the 2021 at the end was just like question marks, and it's he is the one who bookends the trailer, and it seems like Penguin and Catwoman are just going to be like supporting players. I mean, I don't know. They might have an equal share of screen time. Who knows? But from the trailer, it certainly seems like a Batman versus Riddler movie. Yes, as you said, with a very Zodiac vibe. There's that kind of Seven vibe in there. And that's very cool. It's very exciting. Yeah, those painted figures. One kind of looked like the Joker, and one had half his face painted. And you can't put that in a Batman movie without people thinking Two-Face. So do those characters already exist? And this is like a gang of hoodlums who are maybe worshiping the known criminal figures in Gotham, like Batman's Rogues Gallery. Like, I don't know. Sounds kind of cool. Sounds kind of crazy. But yeah, there's a lot to digest in this trailer, and it looks just really cool and different from what has all come before, and looks like it'll be a good time.
Yeah, there's just so much texture to this trailer. Like, it feels like a very lived-in world they've built, and even just in that scene you're talking about with that gang, there's so much to extrapolate on. Like when I first saw them on screen, I was like, "Are they doing the Royal Flush Gang?" And I'm like, "No, that's crazy. That might be a bridge too far." But
I want to live in the world where that's not a bridge too far. But we're getting Hawkman in a movie, so I guess we're almost there.
Exactly, we're almost there. But we also, as you mentioned, got looks at Riddler. We got looks at Catwoman. I like how kind of understated her ensemble was. Like, not everyone has like their complete costume or look yet. Like, Riddler looks like he's just like the trash bag murderer right now. And also, I could not believe Colin Farrell as Oswald Cobblepot as the Penguin, because he looked unrecognizable. We have Mr. Ryan Anderson in the chat saying the Batman got the Oscar-winning crew behind Suicide Squad to do Colin Farrell's Penguin makeup, because it's like, truly, I had to watch that multiple times to be like, oh yeah, that's him. I was like, who is this character? Is this Harvey Bullock? Nope, that is the Penguin. So just before we move on to trivia, any last thoughts about the Batman trailer? Anything that stood out to you? Anything you hope to see? Any questions you still have?
Yeah, another word on the understated Catwoman costume. I really think it does add to that gritty and dirty neo-noir type of feel that we're getting from this film. So I'm really looking forward to the rest of the footage that we're going to get whenever they can start shooting again, and whenever we get to see it in the theaters. It's just, this already looks like a blast. I have watched this probably 30 times already at this point. That's how you know it's a great trailer.
Yeah, exactly. It's just something that I want to keep going back to. And Warner Brothers wisely covered their butts by having 2 question marks in their release date so they can have plausible deniability if it doesn't come out in 2021. So I, for one, am super excited. And speaking of Batman, with news out of the way, it's time for a weekly edition of Nerdist News Trivia, and we like to connect our trivia to the barest of threads here. So in honor of the Batman at DC Fandom, and I believe that tomorrow is an anniversary, I believe either the 5th or the 10th, I don't have in front of me, of Batman Arkham Asylum, the game. We're going to do a little bit of Batman trivia. So you have a pen, pencil, or crayon, something to write on, we'll get right into it. So these are all this is gonna be a multiple choice question. First question, everyone knows the Joker and Penguin, but which of these is not a real Batman villain? A, Johnny Karaoke, B, Emoticon Man, C, the Night Manager, or D, Doodlebug? A, Johnny Karaoke, B, Emoticon Man, C, the Night Manager, or D, Doodlebug? All right, let's see those answers. Amy, was that they B? Unfortunately, Emoticon Man is real. The answer is C, the Night Manager, which I believe was a miniseries with Tom Hiddleston, where he played the Night Manager of a hotel. But Emoticon Man, I'm sure it's just one of those weird throwaway issues, but who knows? Maybe Emoticon Man will be the straight up serial murderer in Matt Reeves' sequel. Moving on to question number 2. During the turbulent 1990s, there were a lot of Marvel and DC crossovers, especially under the Amalgam Comics label. What Marvel superhero did Batman merge with to make the most 90s hero possible? A, Moon Knight, B, Cable, C, Wolverine, or D, Deadpool? A, Moon Knight, B, Cable, C, Wolverine, D, Deadpool. Which hero did Batman merge with during my favorite miniseries ever? All right, let's see them.
Going with C.
I went with A because that's what I want to see.
I mean, I would love to see that, but the answer is in fact C, Wolverine. They made Darkclaw as the infamous Logan Wayne. All right, number 3. This is a true or false question. A film titled Batman Dracula, where the same actor plays both Batman and Dracula, actually preceded the Adam West TV show. True or false? A film titled Batman Dracula, where the same actor plays both Batman and Dracula, preceded the Adam West TV show.
Seems too weird not to be true.
So
let's see those answers.
Okay, I'll go true.
You're all correct. It is true.
Hey!
I did this during the Batman Beyond interstitial where they were doing Mystery Science Theater 3000 over a Batman 66 episode. It's directed by Andy Warhol in 1964. He made it without DC's permission. When they found out, they made him remove it from his exhibition. So it is hard to find, but who knows? Maybe you can track it down. Okay, question number 4. Arkham is the home for Gotham's criminally insane, but what is the name of the other prison that holds Gotham's slightly less crazy criminals? A, Blackgate Penitentiary, B, Gotham Correctional Center, or C, Seagate Island Penitentiary, aka The Block? A, Blackgate, B, Gotham, or C, Seagate?
A for Blackgate.
confusing when you put it that way.
It is Blackgate Penitentiary. All right, staying in the realm of Arkham Asylum. Arkham Asylum was originally owned by Amadeus Arkham, who named the facility after his mother. What was her name? A, Annabelle, B, Elizabeth, C, Beverly, or D, Athena? A, Annabelle, B, Elizabeth, C, Beverly, or D, Athena?
Going for A for Arkham.
All right, so you said A, Amy, you said B, Sabrina, you said D. The answer is B, Elizabeth Arkham.
Is it in Gates of Gotham? Where does that come from?
I don't know off the top of my head. My guess would be the Grant Morrison Arkham Asylum miniseries, but
That makes sense.
yes, who knows? It could just be like a throwaway panel in a Hostess fruit pie ad. All right, so number 6, true or false? Arkham Asylum is located in New Jersey. True or false? Is that your way of saying true? Or
That's my way of saying false.
Okay. Sometime. Oh my God. I need a definitive answer, Amy, or no point. So we have 3 falses. I'm being told that it is in New Jersey.
Whoa!
Yes.
Okay.
Just to
Everything is legal there, I hear.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure. I do think sometimes is the most appropriate answer, but who knows? Just cheaper real estate out there. Just easier. You can commute into Gotham. A lot of people do it. Okay, moving on. Number 7, Tim Burton wanted to put Robin in Batman Returns, and an actor was actually cast to play this role, but Warner Brothers said there were too many characters in the movie and shot it down. Which actor never got to play Robin? A, Leonardo DiCaprio, B, Johnny Depp, C, Macaulay Culkin, or D, Marlon Wayans? A, Leonardo DiCaprio, B, Johnny Depp, C, Macaulay Culkin, or D, Marlon Wayans? Which of these characters was supposed to play Robin in Batman Returns? Can't see. You said B. The answer is, in fact, D, Marlon Wayans. Warner Brothers bought him out of his contract for $100,000. He still gets royalty checks, and there was a toy that was never released that WB changed the skin tone on, but it's clearly Marlon Wayans. So you'll be able to find that on eBay somewhere.
That's a cursed object.
Wow. Extremely cursed. All right, let's move on to number 8. Aaron Cash is the chief of security at Arkham Asylum. He has a prosthetic hook on his left hand. How did he lose it? A, Mr. Freeze froze it and smashed it. B, Scarecrow's fear gas made him hallucinate and he cut it off himself. C, Killer Croc chomped it. Or D, he got it stuck in a vending machine. So A, Mr. Freeze, B, Scarecrow, C, Killer Croc, or D, Killer Snacks.
Well, while D is very relatable,
yeah,
I'm going to go with C.
I went with A.
The answer is, in fact, C. Killer Croc gave it the chomp. And now he is old hook hand, much like Aquaman. Number 9. Oh my God. I did not read this one, but okay, let's roll with it. True or false? King Shark is Dan's thick shark son. Thank you, producer Adam, for this.
Ooh.
True or false? King Shark is my thick shark son. That is true. Legally, it is true. If you look in the lore, it's on the birth certificate.
What was your tweet? It was like, help my son, he's thick.
Very thick. Oh my God. I also love seeing Steve Agee with the King Shark framework in the behind the scenes shot of Suicide Squad. I just can't wait for that.
Also, if they could serve up a return where their King Shark makes a reference to being John Constantine's ex in that movie to bring it full circle to the animated universe, come on.
I would lose my mind. We'll save it for Flashpoint, Amy, okay? There's a lot going on. All right, question number 10. At the end of A Serious House on Serious Earth, what book does Two-Face quote a passage from? A, Don Quixote, B, A Midsummer Tempest, C, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, or D, The Odyssey? A, Don Quixote, B, A Midsummer Tempest, C, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, or D, The Odyssey?
I actually read that recently, but nothing in that book makes sense, so I don't even remember.
I wrote D.
The answer is C, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland.
I guess it did stick in there somewhere.
Yeah, right? Let me see. I have my supercomputer, a bat computer. Please tabulate the results and let me know. Okay, I have it in here. And our winner of today's bat trivia is Amy. Congratulations, Amy.
Hey!
You did it. You are truly the oracle of all things Gotham City. All right, folks, thank you so much for playing. So now we're going to move on to our 30-second soapbox. This is your chance to talk about anything you want to in the entire world. Get whatever's off your chest. So Amy, as our newly minted trivia champion, you are up first. What do you have for us?
Let's see. Read more comics. You can find me on the internet at Enthusiamy anywhere, basically. And I just got to do a really fun show that was a charity benefit full of nerd music, which is like my favorite thing. So I was in a skit with Eliza Pearl and a lot of our friends, and it was Jonathan Colton and the Double Clicks put it all together. But it introduced me to a new fave, a hip-hop artist named Nerdist. NUR-D. He was fabulous, and I'm very excited to dive into his stuff. And if you need a break from the world to dive into some quality hip-hop with D&D jokes, he's your guy.
I think we could all use more D&D jokes in our lives and a break from the world. So definitely going to check.
Start with this song called 20 Cha.
Okay, fantastic. I can't wait. So Sabrina, it's now your turn. What do you have for us?
Yeah, you guys can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Sabrina X Monica, and then also for film updates at Sabrina on Film. You guys could catch me on the First Cut YouTube channel, Geeks of Color website, and the Geeks of Color YouTube channel. And also just be excellent to each other. Wear masks, be kind. Positivity is the thing that makes the world go round. So let's all celebrate that.
Fantastic. That's a lovely message to leave everyone on. I think that's very necessary in this day and age. Joshua, what do you have for us?
Yes, my name is Joshua Yehl. You can follow me on Twitter at Joshua Yehl. Last name spelled Y-E-H-L. I don't know why, just go with it. We're there, I talk about not just DC, but, you know, Marvel, Star Wars, Lady Gaga. So yeah, give me a follow on there. You can catch all my work on IGN, where I do, you know, features, reviews, everything in between. And also am the producer, writer, and host of IGN Now, our daily news show. Not to be confused with Nerdist Now, which is, you know, Dan's thing. But Dan, oh, by the way, I'll see you in court.
I'll see you there. I can't wait. That's going to be part of our crossover, Flashpoint 3.0. All the websites just converge to make one video at the same time. But definitely check out Joshua's awesome work. Check out Amy's work. Check out Sabrina's work. So many talented people in one place. Thank you all again for joining me. It was a true pleasure speaking with all of you and geeking out about all the wonderful DC announcements that happened at Fandom. And with that, we'll see you back here next Monday for a brand new episode of Nerdist News Talks Back at 2 p.m. Pacific, live on Nerdist and Geek and Sundry's YouTube channels, as well as Geek and Sundry's Twitch channel. And until then, please stay safe, be healthy, be kind to each other, and have a great day. Bye-bye.